Guys, and welcome to the Garage Athlete Show. We are on episode 59. I am joined this week by Rachel Smith. Remembered your surname this time. Yeah, it's been a little while since we've kind of got you on. We're hitting some decent numbers on episodes again now. We're getting that consistency back. So sometimes we will probably, by the looks of Rachel's schedule, sometimes we'll be recording on a Monday with yourself. Sometimes we'll be recording on a Thursday with Dan. Some weeks we'll do both, and some weeks we'll do one. Like, we'll just juggle things around until things settle down a little bit for yourself, mate. Like, we always want to get you on board, and it makes life a little bit easier for Dan as well, because I know he sometimes struggles with the kids, etc. So, how's life? The move is fully done now, I believe. Your gym's set up. You've started kind of in your new role. Very, very busy. So do you want to give the listeners a bit of a rundown on what's been going on in the life of Rachel?
Yeah, moved, sorted. Thought it was loads of shit, just crops up. Still got bits to finish off. I'm just looking at stuff that's just everywhere in the gym. But the important bit was still being able to sort of make calls with clients, and when you've got to prioritize things. So that was it. Refining sort of the coaching. The sessions will start to run for coaches in, last one was in Stockport in June before I got ill. And then obviously the NHS work that's just started. With it being like a brand new role, the actual content of it doesn't exist. It's what I'm developing with the service. Just to have greater support for pelvic health within the community, so we're not just looking at pelvic health physios, as in there's one for the trust, which, if you know Cheshire, bloody massive, and to have one pelvic health physio versus a team of MSK, etc., join forces with occupational therapy. There's a lot to be done, and what we're trying to look at there is actually putting some support out there, which is in between appointments. So it's a case of people it's effectively like what I do in my own business. So like the coaching side of things, the education, people able to address things with some knowledgeable support. And I'm hugely hitting the ground with this from a movement, breathing mechanics perspective as well. Especially off the back of COVID. We know so many people who've had COVID, that impacts sort of your breathing, how your diaphragm's working, your pelvic floor, the amount of pressure that's going through the system. And like myself, loads of people suffering with long COVID, which has in itself like a hell of a lot of issues. But I've got like sort of access to I've got access to a gym. So that's where I'm going to be based, as in I can, all I need to do, it's kind of, I've got to work within the NHS framework, which is difficult for me, because I'll always say with clients, right, we're going to try this out. Do you consent to this? If there's anything, you tell me. And I've got a lot of more freedom because my insurance covers me for what my qualification experience is. Where the NHS, I'm kind of within that band 3 position, and for all I can deliver a little bit more than what it may say within the role, because it is sort of meeting the patient's needs, should I say. It's still very much constrained to, basically in the NHS you can get sued, whereas in my private practice, what's more likely to happen is sort of a discussion. Can I have a quick call about things? Can we try things in a different way? It's much more adaptable and person dependent, because it is a one-to-one service, and it obviously runs very differently. But when I said to you before, I've got quite a few funny things on my desk at the minute. So I'm over here tonight. I've got bits of flooring to sort out in the corner, and then I've got some work I need to record for clients. So on my desk, I've just got a little hacksaw.
Okay.
But I've also got this boy as well.
Nice.
So, and then I've got a little bit of
audio only. This is definitely an episode you should check out on YouTube, because I'm not going to describe what Rachel's just shown me on a video. You're going to have to go check out the YouTube video to see it. And we're at 2 minutes in, so it's not.
Also got some Tiger Balm, which would not be recommended as a lubricant to go with said item. But then I've also got behind me like my recording stuff. So I've got my ring light, and anybody walking in, you think there's like some horror porn that I'm filming here, which I'm not. Like that is definitely not what I'm doing.
Setting up your own stage.
Yeah, so obviously my personal business is very different. Like I wouldn't be taking this into work in my NHS role, but it is relevant for like the type of work I do with clients, where I'll kind of showcase use of dilators, and not just for like a sexual purpose, but if we're sort of looking at the confidence, comfort, sexual health, any trauma, things like that. So yeah, but I've had a few new clients recently which are more lifestyle based coaching, which is great for me because I love, you know, it's day-to-day stuff. We sort of chip in, as you know, with your clients, like with the education around whatever they need. But it's always nice to kind of not be down that rabbit hole constantly with these. But it's probably a wrong like phrase to be using, but yeah. Anyway, what's on your desk, John? Anything as exciting as that?
No, just a glass of juice. So I'm back on diet now. So I completed last Saturday. I think it was. No.
Yeah.
This last Saturday.
Yeah.
So back on to diet on Sunday. Last week we bumped food up a little bit, but cardio down a little bit. So I was doing like an hour every day for like the 2 or 3 weeks before competition, just because I had what 2-3 pounds to pull off in that last couple of weeks. But now I've got 7 weeks from one show to the next. So I've got 6 weeks basically to pull off some more body fat. So I could go hell for leather and just be absolutely shredded when I kind of go in. However, I'll just be miserable. So it doesn't make sense to do that in terms of, am I going to push for a pro card this season? Probably not, because I'm not in a position to do so. This is like the interim season. So my first one, I didn't do well. This one's now laying the groundwork to show that I've got a decent structure. I can get in shape, and because I've got a decent structure and I can get in shape, I draw eyes. It's just now taking it to that next level where I'll actually be competitive with those top guys. So it's that step up from being in the mix to kind of get a third place to wanting to go and push for first place finishes and go to kind of like overall. So that's what we're looking at, kind of like the next time around that I compete in a couple.
Because you mentioned it was just as like when you sent the photos over to sort of the admin mod team, the guy who plays first, and we were like, fucking hell, the amount of dense tissue on him for a natty, wow, like absolutely unreal.
And the thing is, the pictures don't even do him justice. Like Natalie's over here shaking her head. He was like, we saw him getting tanned backstage, and I was just like, he's won. Won this class. Like, sometimes you'll just look at someone and go, he's what, 5-6 kilos? He looks 5-6 kilos heavier. He was dense. He was conditioned. Like, there was even second place wasn't even kind of like anywhere close. Yeah. Even if he was a terrible poser, he would have probably been in first place. And it's sometimes hard to tell from photos that density. Now, if he goes to that national level, there'll be other guys up there that are kind of at that sort of like thickness and stuff. And I think there's a lot of self-limiting beliefs in natural bodybuilding, because people think that they can't achieve something. They then look at someone like that and go, well, because I can't achieve it, that guy must be on steroids.
Yeah.
They're not thinking about, the genetics. Like, they're not thinking about the fact that he might have been lifting weights for 10 years. By the time he hit 25, he might start when he was 50. Like, there's lots of kind of different factors that are involved in that. And I've really, really enjoyed this kind of past 18 months or so of really kind of getting into the nitty gritty and really, taking all the factors into consideration. Like, the first time I competed, did I optimize my sleep? Probably not. We had a less than 1-year-old. Like, was I optimizing my fluid intake? Was I looking at the supplementation? There's lots and lots of these little factors, these little 1% when you want to compete kind of at that level, that I was never kind of taken into account before. And what that allows me to do is I can filter that information, and who I am as an athlete and who I am as a coach are completely different. Like, I wouldn't expect my clients to do half the stuff that I do. However, if they're saying to me, right, I want to drop 10 kilos in 12 weeks, it's like, okay, we can do that. However, these are the things you've got to look at in order to be able to do that. Whereas if somebody wants to come in a little bit slower and do half that, it's like, okay, we can do that a lot more flexibly. You don't have to worry about like your meal timings. You don't have to worry about your peri-workout nutrition. And it's like we were saying with your what was your friend that came on the other day?
Rich, yeah.
Rich. So Rich was saying about how a lot of people like focus on the tiny percentiles rather than the big things. But 7 out of 10 of my clients that come through, it's like, right, here's your calories, here's your protein, fall somewhere in between the two of those. Like that, that's the level of complexity you need to take to. And when you then get stuck, then we will build on top of that. We'll build that layer of complexity on top of it. If you can't track your food and stay under a calories target, there's no point in me talking to you about peri-workout nutrition and how you need to take that carbohydrate score, take 50% of it, and that wants to be around your workout. So that 50%, split it into 3. You want easy to digest carbs with some easy to digest protein about an hour before. You're going to have this supplement intra-workout and this post-workout, because people are just going to be like, what? Like,
it's a continuum, isn't it? It's like the continuum of like expectation versus a continuum of what is necessary. Because if your goals require that nth degree, you have to progress along that continuum, ticking those boxes. And like you just explained, that's what you did. But I remember when I first started as PT, working in the gym group in Lewisham, and one of my first clients come to me and she was like, show me a photo of probably Paige Hathaway or someone, you know, like the one you want to look at, and she was like, right, I want to look like that. How long is it going to take? And I was like, okay, tell me what you think. And she was like, well, maybe if I come in and train with you once a week and then you can tell me what to do and I'll come in once or twice. I was like, okay. And I was like, what about your food? She was like, well, if you just tell me what to eat and then I'll just eat it. And I was like, right, okay. So what do you do exercise-wise at the minute? She was like, I sometimes go to Zumba. And then I was like, okay, anything else? She was like, not really. Get the bus to work and then works like one bus stop away, walking. And I go out because I was like, what's your social life like? What do you enjoy doing? She's like, I go out with work at least once a week, out on the weekend. And I was like, well, what about your food? And she's like, oh, I normally pick something up. So Subway, Greg's on the way. And then like listing all these things. And I was like, right, your expectation doesn't match with where you are now. So if I throw everything at you, you're literally going to shit your pants and just walk away. And that's again what we'll always come to, where it's like, are you kind of expecting too much of yourself for the starting point you're at, or are you prepared to fully change because you have a certain specific goal? So it might be like a wedding, it might be you want to step on stage in however long, but there's still the processes of everything you need to go through, because it's just going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to see the progress that you're expecting to see, because everybody you follow on Instagram, I think that was like when everyone first, like, it was like fitness time, wasn't it? It was like however many years ago. And everyone's always in shape and they're always eating like post-workout, having cheat meals, because obviously that was the terminology that was thrown at them then. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to break it down for you. And all I'm going to say is, before, I don't want to take any money off you or anything. You're a member of this gym. You're here at whatever time of day. 4 days out of the week, get to this class and come and do this. Well, I think I did like a strength and conditioning, or there was like a body pump or something class. And I was like, just start to move and train and enjoy and find out what you want to do. And then maybe a couple of days a week, just start to make your lunch and go for work.
That was probably enough to get things moving.
Yeah, but then she decided she didn't like it, and then she stopped actually going to the gym. So I was like, oh well, at least, you know, like there'll be people who will sell the dream, sell the package. And I'm like, there's far too much bullshit out there. It's the same as like,
is that person's goals up here, their lifestyle's down here, and they don't understand, because all they see on Instagram, as you said, is right, them training every now and again and then eating cheat meals all the time, because that's what gets likes, that's what gets attention. They don't see that Paige Hathaway's like other 80% of her food is very, very clean and regimented. She's doing a minimum of 15,000 steps a day. Whatever.
Don, you're on mute.
There we go, back. Yeah. Internet around here is really dodgy. I'm on my phone.
I was like, are you there?
What I was going to say. Yeah, so her expectations and her goals are up here, because that's what she's seen on Instagram. She's not actually seen the lifestyle or prepared to take on the lifestyle that it takes to have those results. I think go back 10 years, and as you said, social media set a lot of unrealistic expectations. However, people can see through the bullshit now. So you've got more and more, I'm going to call them influencers, but they're being more real. They're showing, actually, this is the lifestyle that I lead. Like, the most popular videos of the bodybuilders that I follow now are like a day in the life of. So you actually see, right, these are their meals. They're eating, if they're on the road, they're taking their Tupperware kind of like with them. You get to see what they're eating. You get to see what their day looks like. They wake up at 5, like, I think, is it Kuba? I can't remember what his surname is, owns Ultraflex in Rotherham. He's been doing a load of like day in the life of in his prep. And like that diet is an absolute machine. Like goes to bed at like 8:30 at night, wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's got all his check-ins done by like 9 a.m., then gets out, goes to meetings, goes and trains. And it's like, people see, right, Kuba, he's like a world-class bodybuilder. He owns one of the best gyms in the country. I want that. Or if you ask them to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, they're not prepared to do that. So they want the results without the things you've got to put in place in order to get those.
Yeah. I think just also about what you're saying then, obviously there's a lot of day in the life, whereas before it was very much a highlights reel and not showing what they'd had to do to get to where they did. Yeah. But so I'll stay sort of in touch with like female bodybuilders, or like sort of be like athletic figure, bikini, etc. And the big thing that's kind of come out from those competing to gone.
Sorry, I was just getting the chart. I was saying about this before, you had like one class, whereas now there's bikini, there's figure, there's athletic toned,
but they've got like
trained, there's what is it? There's another one, and then there's bodybuilding.
There's like that, there's like it's in between. What's it called?
Wellness. So they're a bit fluffier up top, but they've just got massive glutes and hamstrings.
But what was on about with those who competed then, a lot of the females have come out of competing and they've opened up and been honest and gone into coaching people with disordered eating, because they, at the time, they were doing all the things they needed to, staying so rigid, and then either staying really sort of small and not pushing the calories to build in the off season, or then going completely the other way and not knowing how to handle it because they've restricted for so long, because the coaching that they've had hasn't been like sufficiently acknowledging of like the psychology behind everything. So they've gone kind of down that route, which is really interesting for me to see, because obviously I experienced a lot of that myself, but had nowhere to kind of go. And it was just like, okay, Rachel, sort yourself out. So it's good that I feel like if you are going into sport now, there's a lot more understanding and holistic support instead of this is where you are. These are the foods you can only eat. This is your fish. This is your ice cakes, and
do more cardio.
Like everything. Yeah.
Eat less food. Do more cardio. Come back.
Yeah. Exactly. So I feel like that, like now, compared to, if you think like 10 years ago is not a long time in the grand scheme of things, but there's been significant changes in terms of athlete wellness. And I think I'd shared with you and Don a lot that had gone on with sort of the really popular American coach Shelby Starnes, and what the protocols he put some of his athletes on who've had, some of them lost their lives.
Died.
Yeah. And it all came off the back. So there's been a lot of people speaking out. So I just feel as though it's a better arena to be in terms of being looked after and knowing what to ask question-wise to a potential coach, not thinking this is the way it has to be done. So there's been a lot of good change in the sport. I feel I just wish it had kind of been there when I got into things, but hey ho.
One of those things is it's a progression, isn't it? So obviously bodybuilding was a very niche sport. Over the past, because of social media, it's become mainstream because it's been tagged onto health.
Yeah.
Even though actually, if you ask any bodybuilder that's ever competed, like they as a population are not healthy.
Not healthy.
That lean, it's not healthy whatsoever.
Yeah. But then you look at strongman, and that's the opposite end of the scale in terms of health, and it's like, there's always going to be that fine line. And I know a lot of the good strongman coaches now really push kind of the health protocols and the education around PED use, and also just in terms of actually having some level of fitness, not just a massive gut sort of to assist with everything. But yeah.
That is good. Right. We've got some questions. I literally just lost the box. There it is. So we moved away from doing like Q&As because we were doing them every week. But I think actually it's really engaging for the community. So we're going to bring these back at least once a month. If I can figure out how to do a live where I can invite you on and it be on my laptop, I'd like to do them live within the groups. I think that'd be really engaging, but I need to figure out how to do that first. So from Home Gym Community, which is Jay, our illustrious leader, what encourages you to help people achieve their goals? So I would read that as like, why did you become a personal trainer?
Am I going first?
I'll let you go first.
Oh, thanks. I think because of my own experience, the things I'd struggled with from like a health and a weight loss perspective, to then doing it the wrong way, but paying a coach and sort of getting the education that I thought I was getting, to then end up with, the other side of the scale, really disordered eating, too scared to do anything, not having any support. Because of the lack of assessment on me, that's how I got labrum tears and grade 3 ACL separation. And I just thought, this is what I want to be doing as a career, obviously moving away from education. And this is what people need help with, because that one coach is one coach in a gym, but there's obviously going to be more like him. And I was like, the standard of qualification, and especially like he was an older coach as well. When it's equivalent to sitting your driving test and then being able to drive for the next 50 years, and hopefully you won't get caught out along the way doing any sort of damage, but you'll probably speed, you'll probably this, that and the other, and just to hope that it doesn't kind of impact on anyone's life. And I just had such a poor experience in myself, and I was like, I kind of need to be part of learning more myself to be able to help people more with that, because I didn't have anyone that helped me with the initial rehabilitation or the initial assessment. He should have spotted this in me because he's a trained professional, apparently. And then with the food side of things, again, there wasn't any support out there for me. I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? I need to get my health back. I need to sort of get my menstrual cycle back. It'd been 18, 19 months. And I was like, I'm just going to have to do what I don't want to do, which is put on more body fat and just get myself into a mentally better place with food. Not overeat, but eat more than, but probably like bulk and calories as such, just to get my body into a state where it wasn't fighting against itself, where I wasn't losing any hair, where my sleep was regular, where I felt like good, because I'd lost what the feeling of good was like for so long. And I was just like, I'd gone, like I mentioned before, from one extreme to another. And I was just like, I fucking lost myself here. So I was like, if I can be part of helping people achieve what they want to in a safer, healthier way, which is congruent with their sort of their lifestyle, their level of knowledge and where they want to go, then that's the route I want to go down. And then sort of later on with sort of my disc herniations and being offered surgery, and then working with Andy Berry and then Chris Knott, and then with Dan for a little bit, sort of with a relapse. It was a case of, I just want to know more, because if I can help somebody else avoid surgery when they're sort of in the late 20s, early 30s, and live a better quality of life. And then same with the pelvic health side of things. For me, it's all about going back to like the health, like we're in a health industry at the end of the day. For all, it doesn't always appear that way because of the things that are kind of purported and pushed upon us. Our job is to help people live a healthier, better quality of life. So that it will always come back down to that for me. And if I get a client who will approach me who wants to lose weight, even if they are overweight, but they're not in a mentally healthy place for that, then that's what we have to work on first. Or if they want to diet and they've got some level of rehabilitation they need to use, we know that they need the nutrients and the calories to support that rehabilitation, and taken away from that is just going to either prolong things or just lead to further injury because of the impact on the body's nervous system as well.
100%.
What about you?
I think for me is when I was like 15, I watched, I think it was 300 or something like that. And there was all those jacked dudes in there. And I decided around that point that I wanted to be involved within the fitness industry. Just didn't know what that was going to look like. And then I saw a personal trainer on telly and it looked like a cool job. So I decided at about 15, I was going to be a personal trainer. I think in the last 5 years or so, it's been, in terms of why I want to help people achieve their goals, is I want to be the coach I wish I had in my late teens, early 20s, because I went to university, got my sports science degree, hit the ground running as a personal trainer, thought I was the dog's bollocks by the time I was like 22. I knew everything. I didn't need to learn from anyone. I can just figure all this out on my own. I can read books, I can read articles, it's fine. I probably wasted the years of being between 22 and 26. I think I was 26 when I hired my first coach, and I've progressed more. So I started lifting weights when I was 13. So I've progressed more in the past like 4 years of being coached, because I've been able to narrow that and go, this is the goal and this is what I need to do, rather than the 13 years before that trying to like figure it out on my own. So
Did you never had a coach before?
Not a weights training coach. So I'd had rugby coaches, but that's about it. Like in terms of like resistance training, it was all articles that I'd found online. It was programs that I found online. It was programs that I bought online. So I spent like, I think I never spent more than like 50 quid on like a program. And then when Willow was born, I stopped playing rugby. So then I didn't like have a goal to train for. So because of that, I just kind of like floated around. Like I kind of wanted to get into bodybuilding, but I wasn't quite sure. Bought like an influencer. So what's his name? Dickerson Ross. Can you remember him? Or Ross Dickerson. He's a men's physique like model, absolute genetic freak. Clearly on juice, but I found his videos on YouTube funny. I spent about 50 quid on his bulking program, ran that, and just got fat because it's not tailored. It's not what I kind of needed to know. Even with my first coach, I didn't go with I went with a guy I knew that had got good results, but he wasn't a natural bodybuilding coach, which is what I needed. So we did okay, but I think he was more used to coaching assisted guys. So like my recomp, I think we ran my initial dieting phase for too long. My off season, I wasn't like looked after well enough. Like the whole bulking phase wasn't explained to me properly about what we're trying to do here. We're trying to push calories up So you need to be keeping to this food. You need to be pushing your food. You need
Yeah.
to be pushing your training to your absolute max.
Yeah.
And food is turning into new muscle, which then meant I spent 2 or 3 months just basically spinning the wheels because I hadn't really put on that much muscle mass. If you look from like my initial recomp to then the end of my building phase, and my calories were probably only at 2,700. And then I went into a 13-week prep where I was dropping a kilo and a half a week. So I was probably sacrificing quite a lot of muscle mass because of how
The
fast
starting point.
weight.
Yeah.
Whereas the second time I got a coach, I did my research. Like I knew from different podcasts and stuff that I'd listened to that actually, if I wanted to give my coach a good shot at doing the best we could to get on stage, that they needed a minimum of 12 months.
Yeah, that's a really big thing there though, because a lot of people are like, right, I want to step on stage in 4 months' time. I want to start working with someone. It's like, right, we need to look at the whole picture. It's like your whole meso and macro cycles. It's like you need to look at sort of training wise where you are now and what you look like now based on that, what your nutrition intake is based on that, because you need to be at a good starting point at the end of your bulk, not kind of always worrying about, well, we can't pull any more calories because you're absolutely fucked anyway, so just do more cardio. Because I've been through that myself, and it's like you've got nowhere to go. You sat on 900 calories doing 2.5 hours of cardio and an hour training a day. To start with, you don't have the time for it, and secondly, your body is not going to be responsive to anything because it's in that such a like fight flight mode constantly.
So the difference between like my building phase this time and last time is like my mini cut was 6 weeks, but we were very aggressive with it. So we pulled off 5 or 6 kilos in 6 weeks. But it was explained to me, this is going to be aggressive. This is going to be uncomfortable. We're doing this to get you back into a building phase quicker. Yeah. Okay, because that's explained to me, I'll accept it. Mm-hmm. We then went into a building phase where it's explained, look, we want to push your food up high. I want to get food to where it's uncomfortable, but your weight is stabilized at that. Like I got up to my heaviest of like 83 kilos, which is the most I've like ever weighed. He was eating 4,000 calories a day. But I've dieted for 30 weeks and only in the last 3 weeks have my calories come under 2,000 calories. Whereas I spent like 6 weeks at under 2,000 calories in my last prep. So it's just one of those things where, like for me, why I want to help people is I know that there are some poor quality coaches out there. My previous coach wasn't a poor quality coach, by the way. He was just not the right coach for me. I've seen he gets amazing results in the program that he does now, but that's not what my goals weren't the speciality that he does. He's much better at what he's doing, and I wish him all the luck in the world. But like working with Jake for this past like 12, how many months was 14 months? It's been one of those things where it's like, okay, when you get a coach that knows their speciality inside and out, they will get you from point A to point B really quick.
Yeah, but he now knows your body as well. He's helped you understand it, but you're then, when we talk about things like, okay, you're not going to have to do this type of like a water cut or anything going in. He doesn't want to do like a carb backload or anything, because he's seen how your body's responded in the past, and that's what you need. So expecting somebody to give you everything you want within 4 months when they don't know your body and you haven't got a clue, it's expecting a lot, and it is quite unfair if they sell you that, and two, if you believe that that's possible as well. So it's always going in with kind of that like questionable attitude, as in, don't expect to get where you want to really quickly unless you're willing and you can sacrifice sort of either sleep, calories, or muscle.
Yeah, I think that about covers that question. So, Ek Curry, have you cut your grass yet? I think this is in reference to my last check-in photos where my grass was really long. I didn't cut it, the missus cut it, which was great. So yeah, the grass has been cut. It was something to do with grass seed being down or something that we couldn't cut it. But yeah, it's been cut now. So it looks okay, except for all the patches where the dogweeds killed the grass. So if anybody knows, we've tried the Epsom salts thing, doesn't work. And we put grass seed down, and it just doesn't seem to now grow where it's dead. So there's big patches in the lawn, and it really irritates me. That's why I don't like cutting the grass back there. So Pete Bullard, DJ, what is your next garage gym upgrade now that it is justified financially to the family by your recent success on stage? All my garage purchases are justified to the family. I'm a self-employed personal trainer, so tax deduction. There we go. For me, I'm now looking for either some jammer arms that will fit on the M3 rack from MirrorFit, which are quite hard to find. Apparently MirrorFit are bringing some out, but I may just have to go to a fabricator when I eventually decide to make that investment. Or I'm going to upgrade or I'm upgrading my incline bench. So I've got a very, very questionable Marcy incline bench at the moment. So I need to spend a bit more money on something that's a little bit more secure, especially when I go back into a building phase and I'm going to have like 40s and 45s above my face. Last thing I need is that bench falling apart behind me.
You could have got about £500 for that like 18 months ago.
I know. If there's another lockdown, it's headed on my place. Rachel said she was moving in the last pod. So what is her new home training setup going to include? So I think you've got your setup basically in your office. That's like your home gym, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like that is my home gym, because this is obviously where I try and train, and it's a shithole at the minute. But like I said, my training, because of long COVID side of everything, has been very minimal and focused on kind of recovery and everything like that. But one of the things I want to get that I need is a reverse hyper, but it's a Rogue one that I'm after because it's easy to store. There's been a few other ones advertised, but it is just like that, the footprint, isn't it? So that's the only other thing I want to add here. But I've just sort of downsized everything, so I've got like single stack cable, which did it. The one thing I did add was Smith machine, and I know like Dan was like, what do you get the Smith machine for? But in terms of rehab, it's a beaut. Like that served me really, really well, just in terms of the things that I've implemented over sort of past 12 to 18 months, especially for my hypermobile clients as well, because it's giving you a fixed plane and you can't really deviate once you find where you should be. It did work a treat, but like I said, I haven't got back up and I haven't set up any like in-person training here yet. That might come, but obviously life is a little bit all over the place at the minute. But yeah, this is like
for January, I'm assuming.
Yeah, probably. But this is like 2 officers that I've like knocked through. But other than when the band is here playing, like there's no one here on the next time. But that fucking band, like they're all right, but everything in this room just vibrates because it's pure metal. Yeah.
So Tony Maxwell, why can you drink but you don't food?
That's a question.
That's a question for an English like major, isn't it? Not even that's an American term, but yeah.
Because drink is a verb, as in to drink, whereas you can't to food. The verb is eat. So food is obviously the description of what the thing is in terms of the drink is as well. Yeah. Sort of in terms of the action, the active part of it.
Yeah, so it's basically the English language is really fucking complicated and has loads of rules, but then loads of exceptions to rules. So it's like I before E, except after C, except for all these exceptions. So yeah,
and like the way you can read the same word in 3 different ways, like the word red, I-E-D.
Yeah. So yeah, basically English is a very flawed language. A bit of a classic question, but the answers are so contradictory all over the internet. Can you build muscle while losing fat naturally? He's put.
Okay.
James Sargent.
I think we've covered this one before. I'm sure we have. Maybe it was on something else. Maybe it was in one of the groups. I can't remember. So there is a lot of contradictory research out there, and a lot of it depends on kind of personal investment and which kind of camp you're based in. I have found it's a possibility, especially with people who are very detrained, coming back from significant injury, or are kind of brand new to training, that's a possibility because you've got such muscle stimulus that the body hasn't had before. And provided you kind of play around with calories to suit them, it's possible. There is some evidence to prove that you can still do it as you're sort of a more experienced athlete, but I'm very much on the fence with it because of the amount of stimulus you would actually need in order to grow muscle. And then that will come back to sort of taking care of your calories. And that's when things like being on point with your sleep, with sort of your intra-workout, your post-workout is going to be kind of the line between this happening and not happening. But again, I'm very much on the fence with it. And some people, it may work genetically, you may be responsive. Other people like myself, who, when you're losing fat, fucking nightmare, doesn't work. What's your experience like personally and with clients?
So I'm very much a believer in, yes, it is possible to do. Do you lose them at the same rate? So this is where people are like, I'm not losing weight, I must be building muscle and burning fat at the same time. No, that doesn't happen. Like, you will burn fat a lot faster than you will build muscle. However, there are 3 instances, like Rachel said, where you can build muscle and burn fat at a fairly similar rate. 1, when you are a complete newbie to the gym. So if you have never trained before, that first year, you are going to make amazing gains in terms of muscle mass coming on. And it may even come on as quickly as it comes off. However, you will probably still lose weight. Just because, as I said, the fat will tend to come off faster than the muscle building. The second time, as Rachel again said, was coming back from an injury. If you're in a detrained state, you will put on muscle really, really quickly. Basically, your body remembers like regaining tissue better than it does building new tissue. So if you were big once, it'll be easier to get back to that size than to get there initially. The other instance that I've seen is when you have a complete change of stimulus. So say, for example, if a power lifter is doing like the 5-3-1 program or something where it is very high intensity, very low volume, if they suddenly go to a medium intensity, high volume program, that stimulus is going to be so novel that their body is going to respond like it would if it was new, because the stimulus is completely new and it's a complete shock to the system. If you are wanting to do that, what you would want to do is you want to run your calories about maintenance. And it's a process called gaintaining, which is where you're trying to manage that equilibrium of being around maintenance while building new tissue. It's very, very hard to do, if I'm being honest. And it's one of those things, how much progress you'd make in, say, 6 months, like gaintaining, like if you took that over a year, you might be better off going into a surplus for a period of, say, 6 months, doing a mini cut of, say, 6 weeks, and then going into a surplus again for another 4 months over that period of time for the amount of tissue that you will gain, compared to trying to do like a gaintaining phase where you'll put on a very, very small amount of muscle tissue. The body does not want to lay down new muscle if calories are only just in a kind of like a surplus. So if I'm saying to somebody that they want to go to like a building phase, a good kind of weight to like be aiming for is somewhere between like, for men, somewhere between like 1 to 1.5 kilos a month is what you'd call like a lean bulk, where you're not putting on like too much fat. However, depending on your training age is all going to determine like how much of a percentage of that is muscle and how much of it is fat. Basically, if you want to put on a lot of muscle, you just got to get used to being a bit fluffy and get used to dieting and dieting quickly. Like, if you want to build a lot of muscle tissue, you've got to be able to diet and mentally handle dieting, because you have to go through those phases of being heavier and then those phases of being lighter as well. You can't, unless you're going to jump on juice, you can't be shredded adding muscle like all year round. It just doesn't work. The human body doesn't work that way. think that about covers that one.
Yeah.
Last question, who is the best Marvel superhero and why?
Okay, you're gonna fucking hate me. I'm one of those weird people who doesn't watch TV and doesn't watch films. Like, you'd be like, you're a geek. And like, I read, I listen to podcasts, I train, that's my stuff. Soz, I'm out.
That's okay. The best Marvel superhero, in my opinion, I love Blade. And they're bringing him into the MCU, like the extended universe. So I put under this, like, is this the MCU, is in the films, or like everything that's kind of been built around it? So yeah, they're bringing back Blade. I think they're going to do it in, what are they in now, phase 5 or whatever it is. Yeah, Blade's probably my favorite. Wesley Snipes as Blade in like the early, mid 90s, early 2000s, like that was ridiculous. I just remember I remember staying up late and watching 5 because we only had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
And like 5 was the only channel that would have like the Blade movies or like the Matrix or stuff like that. You had to stay up till like 10 o'clock at night while you have your little telly on upstairs that you just switch off as you heard your parents kind of coming up to bed. So that covers it for the questions. Which was taken out as my opinion based on all I've read and to go entirely convinced. Okay. James just replied. So yeah, I think that about covers it. It was great to have a bit of a catch up with you, Rach. As I said, we'll bring these Q&A sessions back more. Where can the guys find you in terms of your content? Where are you hanging out these days? Is it still just the gram?
Yeah, just Instagram, rs_strength_coach, because my website hasn't been sorted out yet. And Facebook, yeah, I don't really use Facebook. I don't really use social media that much, to be honest. I'm just shit.
And for me, it is
this is what I'm too busy doing. That's a problem. That and this.
Deej PT on Instagram and Facebook. And if you've made it all the way to the end of this, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. All these podcasts go onto YouTube, and sometimes there's some great content like what Rachel's put up today that you will only get on the YouTube. So when I get to 100 subscribers, I can change the YouTube URL to be the Garage Athlete Show so people can find it. At the moment, it's like DJ Sweets 1991, which is my game.
Is it like your MSN name when you used to like log on?
It's my Xbox gamer tag.
Wow.
So yeah, because my email address is linked to my Xbox, for some reason it's pulled that gamer tag through as my username. I have no idea why. So yeah,
it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. Like, my email address when I was 13 was the Afro13 because I used to have a big afro at school. So yeah, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. When we hit 100 subscribers, we will, I don't know, I might do a competition or something. We get a big surge, but yeah.
I'll give some prizes away.
For our one female listener.
The men can treat the ladies in their life, who knows?
Fair enough. Right. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening, Rach, and I will catch up with you again soon.
You too. Cheers, John. Bye.
Bye for now.